Hey everyone, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in to Relevant Jukebox, and today I'm back with another episode of The Gauntlet, going over a series of releases that I didn't touch upon in a full-length review, but wanted to mention to you guys. 2021 has still been somewhat slow of a release year, still in the first half, but that seems to be picking up as we enter into May. So let's just hop right into these releases over here, but before we do, drop a like if you like, and if you're new to the channel, welcome. Hit that subscribe button. I'm getting pretty close to 1,000. I want to see if I can break that by the end of 21, so I would highly appreciate it. So yeah, awkward rant out of the way, let's get into these records. Starting off with a good one, Promises. This is a collaboration from the electronic producer Floating Points, legendary jazz musician Pharoah Sanders, and the London Symphony Orchestra just thrown in there as well. I'm a little late to this one, obviously it dropped a little while ago, but you know, this one is such a specific mood setter that I was kind of almost like at a loss for words when I first heard it. There is just like an unbelievable stillness to this record. I mean, it's almost indescribable. It feels like you're stuck in this like abstract noir silent film or something. I mean, it is just unbelievable. It's all centered around one movement that takes 9 phases, and there's a pretty prominent melody that plays throughout pretty much the entire release that is just woven into my soul. I cannot unhear it. But if you are a patient listener, if you are a fan of jazz or either of these artists, I mean, you have to listen to this. I think it's like pretty fantastic. Probably the best jazz release that's come out so far in 2021. Next up is the latest EP from Echo 2K. It's titled Pixie. It's pretty scant and brief overall, I will say, but I am enjoying this new sonic clarity that he's reaching. Everything is just like more bright and neon soaked, a lot less like chalky and pastel-like of his previous works. And you know, I don't know, it's got like this prickly edge to it that I like, really starry-eyed and twinkly. I just really hope that, you know, on a full-length album he brings these aesthetics to more fully developed songs, because I do like his ear for melodies. Yes, his voice is going to be an acquired taste and probably get in the way for most people, but I don't really mind it too much. Next up is the new full-length album from the electronic producer Yoshinori Hayashi. I saw this album getting mentioned here and there across the internet, and I decided to check it out because it had a kind of cool little album cover going on, but I don't really understand what the appeal is if you're an electronic fan for this release over here. I mean, it's extremely mild, plain. I don't know, it washes over me as like decent background music, but nothing on this release really like grabbed me and stopped me in my tracks or made me want to revisit it. Latest album from Cannibal Corpse, the legendary death metal act. It's called Violence Unimagined. It's okay by Cannibal Corpse standard. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of Cannibal Corpse. I've kind of been like an active, passive kind of listener across their discography, but this album is heavy. It's pretty consistent, has some decent riffage going on, so it's okay. Is that Phoebe Bridgers on the album cover? I mean, it kind of looks like her. We have yet another album from the indie rock band Born Ruffians. This one is titled Pulp, and you know, this was a band back in the day that got signed to Warp Records, and I was really high on. I really enjoyed their debut, Red, Yellow, and Blue, but since that release, nothing of theirs has really grabbed my attention. They've kind of just become less interesting on each release, and this one's definitely not their worst album to date. It's okay. There just, again, isn't really enough going on to really grab me in, but there's a couple decent tracks on here that stood out. So I mean, I guess check it out, give it a listen if you're interested in some kind of like rickety indie rock. I mean, this latest Young Thug and Gunna Slime Language roster, whatever the hell you want to call it, Slime Language 2, is just terrible. I mean, there's no other way to kind of chalk it up. I mean, it is some of the most generic sounding hip-hop that you can find nowadays, which is weird because I'm a pretty big Thugger fan. Maybe there's a couple tracks on here that might slap a little bit, but I mean, it is just not worth your time. Just completely skip over it. We have yet another release here from the New York-based producers Moma Reddy and AceMo coming together as AceMoma, and this one is just okay. I mean, I will say there is a marriage of the sounds of each on here. Neither artist like overshadows the other, but neither artist is really also not doing much to kind of keep you engaged at the same time. It's not nearly as bombastic as other Moma releases, and yet it's also not as colorful and sophisticated sounding as some AceMo stuff. It's kind of just like watered down versions of both of their sounds coming together. to make one album. It's okay. Flying Lotus has a new soundtrack out, Yasuke. This is accompanying of a Netflix series. And you know, I guess if you didn't know that and took it out of context, like this was a new Flylo full length, you would be unbelievably underwhelmed. That is like his weakest material to date, like hands down, I think. And you know, even so, after watching some of the Netflix series, I mean, I don't know, it's just so mild. I mean, it doesn't really showcase much of Flylo's abilities. It's just kind of like watered down Flying Lotus, like watered down. The third full-length album over here from the Pakistani-born singer, songwriter, composer Arooj Aftab. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And this album's been getting some pretty high praise, and I think deservedly so. It is a very, very intimate and personal album overall. A lot of the arrangements on here are so slow to unravel. I mean, if you're a patient listener, I think it would reward you. Lots of harps and beautiful guitars and just lovely instrumentation, and her voice is just so enchanting overall. I really like the way that she sings. And you know, I would consider myself a pretty patient listener. Even my attention span was kind of leaning at some points towards the middle and the end on this release. It's just a little too brief and scant, that she's really kind of leaning on some of that like empty space that just, I don't know, can work if you're in the right mood, but I found myself not really like wanting to revisit this release over and over again after like being almost like blown away the first time. And rounding out this gauntlet for the month of May, we have a new EP from Burial and Breakdown. Now, if I'm being honest, Burial is the reason why I checked out this EP, and he offers 2 new tracks on here, each over 9 minutes long, but man, they're just probably his weakest tracks to date, in my opinion. The first track, Dark Gesethelmane, I think is how you say it, has a very obnoxious vocal sample that is repeated too much. And then the end of the song just becomes extremely preachy and awkward. And then the second cut, Space Cadet, it has Burial changing up his sound, becoming a lot more space-like, obviously given the title, but there are just these like really awkward ascending arpeggio synthesizers, or whatever the hell you call them. I don't know. They're just kind of like continuing to go up and up and up, seemingly to space, right? But not really. It's just like not interesting. It just is kind of awkward sounding overall. So that's going to do it for this month's Gauntlet. I hope you guys enjoyed. I will be back with another one soon. And make sure to like if you liked the video. It really helps out the channel a lot. And if you want more content from me, hit that subscribe button. Peace.